Chapter 51 Riding a Dragon to Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As they say, the eyes of the people see all. The fourth Mizukage, Yagura, was completely spent. Even if he had the will, Kirigakure's front lines were too weak to continue the fight, especially after the heavy losses their genin suffered from the tailed beast bomb and the subsequent pursuit. Genin are the backbone of a village's forces, like regular soldiers in an army. When the rank and file take a beating like that, it doesn't matter if your mid-level and high-ranking officers survive, unless Yagura was willing to be completely ruthless and start drafting fresh genin from Kirigakure to bolster the lines, but the Yagura standing there wasn't the Obito-controlled puppet. As Kage, he couldn't just ignore the village's situation, bleeding it dry, and mortgaging its future, so, after rallying the remaining mist ninjas in the eastern part of the Whirlpool country, Yagura dispatched peace envoys to Konoha's front line. Even then, Yagura still clung to the pipe dream of holding on to the territory they'd seized in the upper part of the Uzumaki country. Naturally, that wasn't going to happen, and Konoha shattered that delusion with a firm no. The final agreement, both sides would return to the status quo from before the war. No one would station troops in the land of whirlpools, and no reparations would be paid. When news of the terms reached Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi signed off without hesitation, with Kumogakure, Iwagakure, and Sunigakure already crying uncle. Konoha, after taking such a beating, couldn't afford to keep fighting. The peace treaty went back to the front lines. Yagura signed and sealed it, and both sides began their withdrawal. The Third Shinobi World War was over, but as the troops pulled back, both sides left behind a network of informants throughout the land of whirlpools. These agents would be crucial if war broke out again, and the shadow war between them had already begun. Konoha ninjas started heading home in waves, but Gen Uchiha wasn't in a hurry. He planned to return with the last group, just like Orochimaru. On the surface, it looked like a master and disciple traveling together, but Uchiha Gen actually wanted to use the time to extract Uchiha Uichi and Uchiha Mori. The last group going home would be replaced by the first group rotating into border patrol duty. Of course, not everyone got sent to the border. Usually, ninjas with connections could wiggle out of it. Border assignments usually fell to those without clout or backing. It was a long, boring gig, so nobody with connections wanted it, but for civilian ninjas, it was a decent break. The pay was good, and they might even get a ninjutsu reward for good work. Class divisions, no matter the world or the system, are just a fact of life. The ninja world was no different. It was just more or less obvious. Uchiha Gen asked Orochimaru for a couple of days off, claiming he needed to unwind in a nearby town, and Orochimaru signed off immediately. Taking time off to relax in town while you were stationed at the border was bending the rules, but Orochimaru didn't mind a little personal gain at the expense of the service. And Gen Uchiha was equally happy to game the system, master and disciple working together, problem solved. The longer he was a student, the more Gen Uchiha realized he'd made the right call switching sides. Guys like Namikaze Minato, who had been marinated in the will of fire, wouldn't dream of exploiting their position or bending the rules. If he hadn't suggested Uchiha Fugaku, his shortcomings would not have been exposed, and Namikaze Minato would not have had more choices. As usual, it would not be difficult to get Namikaze Minato's approval if he bigger his situation. Thankfully, he'd realized in time that the paragon of virtue persona wasn't a good fit. He didn't have the self-sacrificing, candle-in-the-wind thing going on. Leaving the Konoha border camp, which had shrunk a little, Uchiha Gen used a shadow clone jutsu. With the puff of smoke serving as cover, he burrowed underground while the clone headed toward the town. The odds of Orochimaru tailing him weren't high, especially with Orochimaru busy organizing border defenses, but he still had to be careful. He didn't want anyone finding out he was absconding with a couple of his own clan members, even if they weren't going to talk and would end up in Orochimaru's lab anyway. It was enough that he knew the secret to Sharingan evolution. The more people who knew, the bigger the headache later. After sneaking around for a while, Gen Uchiha surfaced, picked up the pace, and made tracks. 40 minutes later, Uchiha Gen was back at the Nameless Mountain. He used the transformation technique, threw on the cloak that hid his whole body, and was about to head into the cave when he suddenly remembered something and made some noise outside. Instantly, the two wooden figures sleeping soundly inside perked up, cautiously approaching the entrance to investigate. Master. Catching the familiar scent, the two wooden figures relaxed, practically tripping over themselves as they rushed out of the cave and into the woods, shouting happily. From now on, you call me, sir, details matter. Loose lips sink ships, and all that. If those two wooden figures called him master in front of Uchiha Yuichi and Uchiha Mori, and the two happened to hear them later, they might start piecing things together. These two wooden figures were going to be his gophers, his assistants, until the experiment was over. Can't be careless, he might not want to be some big, shining hero, but he also didn't want to be somebody people despised. Yes, master. Huh. Yes, sir. The two wooden figures quickly corrected themselves. Uchiha Gen stepped into the cave, the wooden figures close behind, hearing the extra footsteps. Uchiha Yuichi and Uchiha Mori, still strapped to the crosses, snapped awake. Their two pairs of Sharingan eyes emitted an eerie red glow in the dim cave. Who are you? Let us go. Uchiha Gen ignored them and walked straight toward Uchiha Yuichi. Kirigakure scum, what do you think you're doing to Yuichi? Uchiha Mori was all bravado and bluster. Don't you dare disrespect, sir. The two wooden figures, still draped in their black cloaks, stepped forward and started punching Uchiha Mori in the gut. That's enough, Gen Uchiha ordered, stopping them. He wasn't using his own voice, of course. A quick voice mimic was simple for a ninja. The wooden figures immediately stopped. Before Uchiha Yuichi could finish, Uchiha Gen pulled out a handkerchief and clapped it over his mouth and nose. What the hell are you doing, you bastard? The Uchiha clan will never let you get away with this. The drug took effect quickly, and Uchiha Yuichi passed out. I want, Following suit, Uchiha Mori also went limp. Uchiha Gen pried open Uchiha Mori's eyelids. His eyes spun into Sharingan, and he cast a genjutsu. He did the same for Uchiha Yuichi, just to make sure neither of them woke up midway. Unfastening the latches, Gen Uchiha turned to the wooden figures. You two, carry them outside. Yes, sir. The two wooden figures moved fast. Zhu Rong, burn this place to the ground. Yes, master. Zhu Rong shimmered into existence in midair, opened his dragon mouth, and unleashed a torrent of flames, quickly obliterating any trace of their presence. Outside the cave, a hint of excitement touched Uchiha Gen's face as he looked at Zhu Rong. Maximum size. Yes, master. Zhu Rong transformed, growing in size at an alarming rate. In a flash, the foot-long mini-dragon became a 10-meter-long, barrel-thick, magnificent beast of fire. Zhu Rong could shift freely between the smallest and largest forms, embodying the dragon's power to change size, ascend into the heavens, and vanish into thin air. He wondered if the advanced Homais would exhibit similar abilities in different forms down the line. Uchiha Gen hoisted Yuichi and Mori onto the dragon's back and glanced at the two wooden figures, who were practically vibrating with excitement as they stared at the fire dragon. Even hidden under their cloaks, their eagerness was obvious from the way they stood a little taller. Sorry, but Zhu Rong wasn't having any of that. You two, take a nap. Uchiha Gen reached out with his right hand, activating the soul fruit. He drew out the souls and lifespans of the two wooden figures. Zhu Rong hadn't said anything, but a senior Homais had his pride. He couldn't let a couple of low-level Homais ride him. Storing the souls and lifespans separately, Gen Uchiha squatted and pulled the cloaks from the two wooden figures, tying the bodies together with the fabric. Then, he turned and vaulted onto the dragon's back. Zhu Rong cocked his head and blasted a gout of flame, instantly turning the bodies of the two wooden figures into ash. Good job, Zhu Rong. That caution was good. He could always cook up a couple of more wooden figures later. Let's go, roar, a magnificent dragon roar echoed, and flames like morning clouds sprouted under each of Zhu Rong's 4 dragon claws. The dragon's body shot skyward and vanished. Chapter 52 Reward Yourself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. More than 900 meters up, the wind whipped at his face, tossing his black hair and robes. Gen Uchiha narrowed his eyes, gazing down. Below, a sea of green stretched as far as he could see, waves upon waves of green mountains, the seawater an endless forest. The vibrant scene was exhilarating. This was the first time he'd let Zhu Rong fully extend its wings, almost maxing out its flight capabilities. Back in Konoha, he'd only ride low in the forest, all sneaky-like. He never got the chance to ride it on the battlefield. This was the most fun he'd had in ages. Even if he wasn't flying solo, it was still awesome. The only downside was that Zhu Rong couldn't fly higher, only about 1,000 meters above ground. It wasn't a real dragon, after all. Maybe someday, he could transform thunderclouds into a Hametz and fly higher, the Crimson Dragon Shadow Sword, looking for clouds to hide in. It wasn't breaking any speed records, maybe 270 kilometers an hour, about the same as a regular helicopter. Every time they passed a cloud, Uchiha Gen would reach out and touch it, smiling like a kid, all trace of adult seriousness gone. Then again, who wouldn't feel like a kid flying through the sky, touching the clouds? It was his first real flight. Everything was fascinating. He couldn't get enough of the scenery. Gen Uchiha always loved sightseeing. No matter how he traveled in his past life, he always stared out the window, never sleeping or messing with his phone. 3 hours later, a bustling village came into view. With his sharp eyes, Gen Uchiha could even make out the faint outlines of the Hokage faces on the mountain. Gen Uchiha steered Zhu Rong in a new direction, dropping altitude, heading toward the thick forest outside Konoha. Once in the woods, Zhu Rong shrank back down and crawled onto Gen Uchiha's left arm to rest. The long flight had tuckered it out. Gen Uchiha, with his 2 live cargo, began searching for a temporary hideout. Eventually, they'd be moved to a special experimental base. After half an hour, Uchiha Gen finally found a decent cave deep in the forest. He roughed up the critters inside and kicked them out. Then, he forced open the eyelids of his 2 live specimens and hypnotized them. Leaving the cave, he drew the Kusanagi sword and used wind chakra to chop down trees and carve them. Before long, he had 2 wooden figures, more detailed than his previous attempts, and gave them the lifespan stored separately. Looking at the 2 wooden men, who seemed groggy and confused after waking up, Gen Uchiha mused, "From now on, you're Mu-E and Mu-Er. Get dressed and clean up the cave." "Yes, sir." The wooden men grabbed the tossed cloaks, quickly put them on, and scurried into the cave. Afterward, Uchiha Gen disguised himself and headed to a nearby town to buy supplies. The supplies were dropped off in batches at a hidden spot outside town. Since there was so much stuff, Gen Uchiha couldn't carry it all himself. He had to summon Zhu Rong to help. Back at the cave, Gen Uchiha used the remaining wood to make 2 crosses. He then installed the movement-restricting devices he'd gotten in town and placed them in the cave. Finally, he strapped the 2 people to them. After a hard day's work, Uchiha Gen wiped the sweat from his brow. It wasn't particularly difficult, just a pain in the butt, but it had to be done. If you want power, you can't complain. Even though he had the soul fruit cheat code, he didn't have some system that conjured things out of thin air, so he couldn't afford to be lazy. After finishing the work, Uchiha Gen got some water from the seeping puddles in the cave and gathered some firewood outside. He lit the firewood and boiled water to make 2 buckets of noodles. Gen Uchiha sat outside the cave, eating his instant noodles and watching the forest darken. Not much to eat or drink, but it was a meal. Afterward, Uchiha Gen began setting up traps with explosive tags around the cave, mainly near the entrance. Even though it was getting dark, the Zhu Rong glow didn't affect his work at all. If he kept blowing up the animals near the entrance, the area would eventually become a no-go zone for them. Animals aren't stupid. He used up every last one of the explosive tags in his ninja tool bag. Then, Uchiha Gen called Mu-E and Mu-Er to give them detailed instructions. Finally, he hopped onto Zhu Rong, who was resting, and they soared into the night sky. The return trip took over 3 hours. It was almost midnight when they arrived at his lodging. Seeing the neon signs and the shops open all night, Uchiha Gen walked in, a little hesitant. After a tiring day, he deserved to treat himself. "Hey, handsome, you're new here, aren't you?" A middle-aged lady in a flashy dress walked over, swaying her hips and smiling. "Yep, first time at Pink Flower. Hope you don't disappoint." Uchiha Gen, disguised with the transformation technique to look like he did in his past life and dressed as a samurai, said casually, he couldn't exactly stroll in here looking like a kid. He wouldn't be able to get a drink, let alone experience the custom shop. after a hard day, why not kick back and enjoy himself? Now, our lantern flower is the best custom shop in town. We never disappoint. Here's our menu. Every service is top-notch. The old lady patted Gen Uchiha's chest, covering her mouth and giggling. Her heavy perfume filled the air. She then pulled out a list as if by magic. Uchiha Gen took the menu, pretended to think for a moment, then said, "Since it's my first time, let's see what you've got. First, bring me a table of your best wine and food. Then, get me a singer. And finally, 2 young, good-looking girls to help me with a bath." Can you handle that? That if he didn't want a party, why would he waste his time in this place? Don't make it easy, or there's nothing to talk about. Haven't you heard that you can only see the true chapter in the ordinary? Hurry up. If you satisfy me, the tip will be generous, and I'll be a regular. Smack! Uchiha Gen raised his hand and gave her a playful slap on the rear, which was quite springy and a bit shocking. Oh, stop it. The old lady gave Uchiha Gen a playful glare, then took the order and went to make arrangements. Other staff would naturally come to take care of Gen Uchiha. Uchiha Gen listened to the pleasant music, enjoyed the wine and food, and finally felt full. After that, he went to the prepared private hot spring and had 2 reasonably attractive women help him bathe. After a soak, most of his fatigue vanished. After paying, Gen Uchiha left the pink flower custom shop and found a fancy hotel to crash. The next morning, Uchiha Gen woke up completely refreshed. He went out for breakfast and then wandered around town. With the war over, the town was slowly bouncing back. It was nowhere near as hopping as Konoha, though Konoha was called a village, but it had already outgrown that. It was almost as big and busy as a county seat. After eating, drinking, and having fun all morning and half the afternoon, Gen Uchiha returned to Konoha's frontline camp. As soon as he got back in his butt hit the seat, Orochimaru sent someone to summon him. He wondered what was up. Chapter 53 Men silently cry and women cry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Orochimaru-sensei, what do you want me to do? Gen Uchiha walked into the tent, giving a slight bow. Have a seat, Orochimaru said, looking up with a faint smile. Thank you, Orochimaru-sensei. Gen Uchiha crossed the tent and sat across from Orochimaru, looking relaxed and composed. Get some rest the last couple days. Come give me a hand when you're ready. Uchiha nodded. No problem. Just let me know what you need. Are you more interested in helping with administrative tasks or assisting with my experiments? You mean, that research? Gen Uchiha's eyes lit up. Exactly. Then, no question, I'd rather assist you with your experiments, Orochimaru-sensei. Compared to immortality, nothing else matters. Orochimaru's smile widened. They were kindred spirits, sharing the same ultimate goal. Come by tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Yes, sir. That's all. Take it easy, Orochimaru-sensei. Back in his tent, Gen Uchiha had time on his hands. Many of his friends had gone back to Konoha, so he focused on studying ninjutsu. Currently, Gen Uchiha was focusing on 2 ninjutsu, Wind Flame Sword and Explosive Flame Bomb. Ideally, the Wind Flame Sword could be used for both close and long-range combat. It was a blade work that didn't require hand seals, though he hadn't finished the second half yet. In ninja battles, jutsu that didn't require seals had a massive advantage. The Rasengan, Chidori, and water-severing blade technique were all examples of sealless ninjutsu. After all, serious ninjas didn't need seals. They could throw out jutsu just by clapping their hands or touching their palms together. The explosive flame bomb, on the other hand, was classified as sealed ninjutsu. While fire release ninjutsu was incredibly lethal, it wasn't easy to land a hit. And lethal power didn't mean a thing if you couldn't hit your target, so, Gen Uchiha wanted to focus on the explosive aspect of fire release chakra, toning down the heat and creating a ninjutsu similar to explosive bullets. He envisioned launching a fireball like a cannonball that exploded on impact. The flames and shockwaves would scatter like shrapnel. Ideally, the power would also scale with chakra. If you pumped in enough chakra, it could become a portable artillery. the speed and dense scattering of flames would make it easy to hit someone. Even if it didn't kill them, injuring them would increase his chances of winning. Gen Uchiha had high hopes for this ninjutsu, hoping it would become another signature technique of the Uchiha clan, next to the Great Fireball technique. As a core member of the Uchiha clan, the stronger the clan, the greater his own benefits and status, and unlocking the incredible power of ninjutsu was something Gen Uchiha found genuinely fascinating. The fact that he didn't have any special power in his previous life made him cherish and pursue it now. Many ninjas had gotten used to it. While they still pursued power, they weren't as intensely driven. He was starting to understand Orochimaru's dream of pursuing the truth. Time flew by when you were focused, and soon it was dinner time. With fewer people in Konoha's frontline camp, the food had improved. These days, Konoha ninjas were being transferred from the frontline camp to build bunkers along the border, not just here, but on other borders. Konoha had a network of these bunkers. They were typically reinforced with barriers. These bunkers served as defensive and offensive positions, preventing enemy infiltrations to some extent. Of course, they could only stop larger groups. Small teams could bypass them. Konoha's border was too long to cover everything. After dinner and a walk, Gen Uchiha returned to his tent to study ninjutsu, then washed up and went to bed. The next day, Gen Uchiha spent his free time after training studying ninjutsu. There wasn't much else to do for entertainment in the camp. Before he knew it, it was 2 in the afternoon. Gen Uchiha arrived outside Orochimaru's tent in a hurry. Orochimaru emerged on time. Gen Uchiha greeted him, and they set off together. The Konoha ninjas in the camp respectfully greeted Orochimaru. Some even looked at Gen Uchiha with a zealous expression, openly envious of him. After leaving the camp, Orochimaru picked up the pace, followed by Gen Uchiha, and they soon reached a forest in the northeast corner of the camp. Stopping in front of a large, unremarkable tree, Orochimaru pressed a piece of bark, then walked a dozen steps. A dark hole appeared, with neatly carved steps descending into the darkness. After they entered, the hole closed, and 2 wisps of fire shot out of Orochimaru's mouth, lighting oil lamps along the walls. The darkness vanished, replaced by a strange, greenish-yellow light. Bang, bang, bang. The tunnel was deep, and their footsteps echoed, enough to unsettle most people. After navigating the long tunnel, Gen Uchiha followed Orochimaru into a spacious hall. In the dim light, he could see rows of cylindrical storage tanks. The tanks were full of specimens, mostly animals, with the rest being human. Some were normal humans, while others were mutated to varying degrees. Many were human-animal hybrids, most of them human-snake. Human experiments. Surprised? Kind of. Isn't human experimentation banned in the village? Ha! If the village didn't ban it, would they be encouraging it? Actually, Konoha isn't alone. The other 4 great ninja villages and some smaller ones all have secret experiments that can't see the light of day. It's banned on the surface, but the research continues in secret. I see. Unbelievable, right? Orochimaru turned with a faint smile. Yeah, I thought. You thought everything in Konoha was on the up and up, didn't you? I was surprised when I first heard about it, too. Gen, you're right to be surprised. Where there's light, there's shadow. With the chaos and darkness of the ninja world, is it really a surprise to find this kind of thing? The dark, chaotic world breeds monsters. Gen Uchiha looked conflicted, then took a deep breath. You're right, Orochimaru-sensei. Is this place part of the village? No, this experimental base is dedicated to combining animals with humans. After all, some animals live a long time, don't they? Plus, long-lived summoning beasts are also within the scope of my research, especially snakes. I haven't had time to find and capture other summoning beasts yet. The village would never allow me to do this kind of research in plain sight. I built this base myself, using the research funds Konoha gave me. The village's official research bases are naturally located near Konoha, not out here. With that, Orochimaru turned and headed toward the laboratory. Isn't it a hassle to travel back and forth to Konoha? Not at all. I can summon plenty of snakes to help me move things. Orochimaru said casually. Gen Uchiha was stunned. The snakes of the dragon cave have to fight for you, protect you from disasters, communicate for you, travel for you, and are used as experimental materials and moving workers. The snake summoned by you in the dragon cave is really lucky for 3 lifetimes. This is even more capitalist than a capitalist. It's like a man silently crying and a woman crying. Chapter 54. Prepare for a rainy day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Teacher Orochimaru, this base is huge. It must have been a real pain to build, right? Not really. Earth release ninjutsu skills make it a lot easier. Guess I need to focus on Earth release from now on. Gotta have my own research base eventually, star. Teacher Orochimaru, you're not getting your human experiment subjects from the village, are you? No. Some are prisoners of war, others come from the black market. The higher-ups forbid using villagers for human experiments, and even people from the fire country are off limits. Okay, so not completely messed up. Uchiha felt a wave of relief. Honestly, this isn't that surprising. Back in my previous life, the US government experimented on its own citizens. In this day and age, we're used to seeing all kinds of messed up stuff that shatters your faith in humanity. You get pretty numb to it, Heh. Xian, these are necessary sacrifices on the path to immortality. It's not that they should sacrifice, it's that I'm stronger than them, so they have to. Simple as that. If necessary, even people from the fire country or the village. Before Orochimaru could finish, Uchiha cut him off. Teacher Orochimaru, you absolutely cannot touch the people in the village, and you really shouldn't touch the people of the fire country either. If you need materials, the Uchiha clan can fund purchases on the black market. And if that's not enough, or if the clan balks, I'm willing to lead a team to the ninja world to collect experimental materials. Some lines you just don't cross, or there's no going back. If Orochimaru's just doing human experiments, we might be able to smooth things over, get the village elders to take some of the blame. The villagers and ninjas probably wouldn't care too much, as long as they aren't the ones being experimented on. Out of sight, out of mind, But if villagers and ninjas become lab rats, and everyone's safety is at risk, Orochimaru's gonna be public enemy number 1, no matter what he's accomplished. That he didn't want Orochimaru defecting from Konoha like in the original timeline, especially since he didn't know if he could change Minato Namake's fate. If Minato still kicks the bucket, Orochimaru's the best choice for Hokage. Jiraiya and Tsunade aren't interested in the job right now. It doesn't matter if they're in the village or not, it won't affect Orochimaru's orders. It's even better if they are here, because of their bond. As long as Orochimaru keeps his experiments away from villagers, there's a good chance he'll be forgiven and supported. If Orochimaru becomes the 5th Hokage, a lot of bad stuff won't happen, and as one of his disciples, I'll benefit big time. Orochimaru turned, his golden snake eyes fixed on Uchiha. Expressionless. A cold, barely contained murderous aura filled the air, like a viper ready to strike. Are you telling me what to do? Uchiha stood his ground, his Sharingan eyes blazing. Yes. I am telling you what to do. I've been with you long enough, teacher, and I think I know you pretty well. Your obsession with immortality is way deeper than mine. I'm willing to try it, and walk away if it doesn't work. But you have to succeed. That's why, if you run out of subjects and can't get them any other way, you'll snap and start using people from the fire country and the village. And that's how you go down a dark path. One wrong step, and you'll ruin everything you've built. Maybe you don't care, but as your student, I can't let you do something that's stupid. The murderous aura faded, replaced by a smile. Orochimaru turned and walked away, his voice low and raspy. Whether you have ulterior motives or not, I don't regret taking you as a disciple. If I need test subjects in the future, I'll look to the Uchiha clan, and you. The Sharingan vanished, and Uchiha grinned. I'm at your service, teacher. What if I don't become Hokage? I'm still at your service. The clan, I can't guarantee. But I'll do my best to persuade them. Heh heh, alright, enough chit-chat. Let's get ready for the experiment. What can I do? Right now, you need to study. Learn to use, maintain, and do basic repairs on the lab equipment. And fetch me tools and supplies. Oh, and you need to learn medical ninjutsu. That will be a huge help to me. How's your chakra control? Excellent. Oh. Confident, are we? Medical ninjutsu demands precise chakra control. Doesn't matter how demanding it is. I can handle it. Gen Uchiha was certain, my soul's crazy powerful, and the soul fruit just amplified it. My control over chakra's already on a whole other level, I'm practically a medical ninjutsu prodigy, I just never had the energy to practice it before, In that case, after the experiment, grab a medical ninjutsu scroll and get to work. I want to see results ASAP. No problem. Gen Uchiha was thrilled, sure, I could get medical ninjutsu from the clan, but it won't be as comprehensive as what Orochimaru's got. He's a ninjutsu fanatic, The Uchiha have a solid foundation, but medical ninjas are a more recent thing. It's not our main focus, so the ninjutsu's pretty basic, now that the war's over, getting ninjutsu from the clan isn't as easy as it used to be. Gotta do stuff for them, make contributions, getting it from Orochimaru takes work too, but it'll be way easier, plus I get to learn scientific research, I'm not too interested in the meaning of life, I just want to find out how to use the soul fruit's power to evolve the Sharingan, it would be a waste if I didn't evolve this Sharingan to the kaleidoscope or higher. It drives me nuts just thinking about it, Alright, the experiment's about to start. First, go get me a normal human cadaver from storage. Got it. Gen Uchiha turned and left the brightly lit lab, found the hall, and quickly located an unused container. After figuring out the storage bin controls, it sank with a hum. He hoisted the container full of mysterious liquid and headed back to the lab. Orochimaru was totally in the zone when he was experimenting. He'd work for hours without stopping. If Gen Uchiha hadn't been in top shape, he'd have collapsed from exhaustion. Finally, Gen had to remind Orochimaru of the time, and Orochimaru reluctantly wrapped things up. By the time they got back to camp, it was past 11. If Orochimaru hadn't been the commanding officer with special privileges, they'd have gone hungry. From then on, Gen Uchiha lived a simple, two-track life. He practiced ninjutsu in the morning, followed Orochimaru to the secret base for experiments in the afternoon, and got back late at night. With his precise chakra control, Gen Uchiha mastered a C-rank medical ninjutsu in less than 5 days, shocking Orochimaru. Of course, knowing medical ninjutsu doesn't automatically make you a good medical ninja. You also need a ton of theoretical knowledge, you can never have too many skills, he thought. So, during experiments, Gen Uchiha also studied medical theory. Human experimentation demands a solid understanding of medicine. Orochimaru's theoretical knowledge was second only to Tsunade's, maybe even on par. As time passed, Gen Uchiha became familiar with the equipment, procedures, and basic techniques. He'd gone from a total noob to a scientific researcher, though he still had a ways to go before he could run his own experiments. About 2 weeks later, word came down that the first group of ninjas returning to the village would arrive soon to rotate out forces. The thought of going home set the front lines buzzing, like school kids on the last day before summer. The ninja war arc is over, and a new chapter's about to begin. Chapter 55 Liang Zi is finally settled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For a frontline ninja, the temptation to return to the village is strong, but not for Orochimaru and Uchiha. One wants to experiment and research without interruption, the other to study and improve in peace. Neither of them wants to disrupt their relatively pleasant lives. However, the decision wasn't up to them. After receiving the news, Orochimaru began preparations for the handover. When the first group of returning ninjas arrived at the border, the person in charge officially completed the handover, marking their return. Eager to be home, the Konoha ninjas sped forward, reaching the village entrance in record time. Their arrival was so fast, they caught everyone off guard. The welcoming committee wasn't ready. previous returning ninjas had been greeted properly. Surely this last group, the ones who'd sacrificed the most, deserved the same. So, the returning ninjas waited at the village gate while a Chunin hurried to the Hokage building. About half an hour later, Sarutobi Hiruzen arrived with a large group, including Konoha officials, heads of major families, jonin, and many villagers. The officials, family heads, and jonin were reserved in their welcome, while the villagers were far more enthusiastic. Some called out to their returning family members, while others shouted praise or cheered. There weren't any parades or firecrackers, but the atmosphere was lively. This kind of heroic treatment made many ninjas flush with excitement, feeling their sacrifices on the battlefield and their hard work on the border had been worth it. After the excitement died down, Orochimaru and other frontline leaders left with Sarutobi Hiruzen and the officials, while the others went home to their families. Since other Uchiha ninjas had returned in earlier groups, Uchiha Gen returned to the Uchiha compound alone. Reaching the gate, Gen Uchiha was surprised. Uchiha Mikoto, Uchiha Shisui, and Uchiha Itachi stood waiting. "Sister Mikoto, what are you doing here?" Gen Uchiha snapped out of his daze, smiling as he approached. "Fugaku asked us to welcome you back," she said. "It wasn't easy to gather a large crowd. Everyone's busy. So, it's just the three of us. Hope you don't mind." Uchiha Mikoto, holding Uchiha Itachi's hand, smiled gently. Like a friendly neighbor, Gen Uchiha was touched. "Don't be silly. I'm the one who should thank the clan head for going to the trouble and thank you for coming to meet me." Thought it was a smart way to win people over, and Gen Uchiha knew it. Still, he had to accept it. Was it Uchiha Fugaku's idea, or someone else's? In the comics and anime, Uchiha Fugaku was always serious and traditional, not someone to do something so subtle. It was more likely a woman's idea. He glanced at Uchiha Mikoto. It had to be her. Uchiha Mikoto was no fool. As the daughter of the former leader of the Hawks, Setsuna Uchiha, how could the current patriarch's wife be just a simple housewife? In the original story, Uchiha Fugaku often discussed things with Uchiha Mikoto. She was clearly aware of Uchiha clan operations. "Itachi, say hello." "Brother Gen." Uchiha Itachi, who had been staring up at Uchiha Gen, said obediently. "Wow, Itachi's gotten taller." Gen Uchiha patted Uchiha Itachi's head. The gesture made the boy frown slightly, but he didn't pull away. Gen Uchiha noticed it. Did this kid think he was too grown up for that? He chuckled inwardly. He didn't even consider himself fully mature yet. Gen Uchiha withdrew his hand and smiled. "Long time no see, Shisui. How's it going?" "Great. The war's over, right?" Uchiha Shisui replied, his sunny smile radiating happiness. "Oh, Fugaku wanted me to apologize to you," she continued. "He couldn't deliver on his promise. He can only make you the deputy captain of the police force, like Shisui. The elders felt that you and Shisui are too young and inexperienced. Being in a high position at a young age isn't always a good thing. They believe more training and experience will benefit you." Uchiha Mikoto looked apologetic and bowed slightly. The two elders were Uchiha clan elders and deputy ministers of the police force. They had influence over Uchiha Fugaku, both within the clan and in the police force. Gen Uchiha. He hated the word inexperienced. And insufficient management experience? How would they know without giving him a chance? His team had only 17 people. Did managing that small group really require extensive experience? Whether the two elders were trying to hold him back or genuinely believed it would help him grow, he was annoyed. "Shisui, what do you think?" Gen Uchiha asked calmly. "I think the elders' concerns are reasonable. I should practice more." Shisui smiled innocently, honestly expressing his opinion. Gen Uchiha. He was stuck. Well, sometimes you have to retreat to advance. Being a deputy was perfect for someone without ambition, but he was driven. He wanted to lead. If he couldn't be a leader, he wouldn't waste his energy, he would increase his strength in secret and wait for an opportunity. it wasn't worth feuding with the elders over this, and judging by Uchiha Fugaku's agreement, the three had probably reached an understanding. Uchiha Fugaku wouldn't support him. Why offend anyone? A genius was just a genius, after all, superiors only cared when you were useful. Otherwise, they'd toss you aside like an old shoe. Many in power had no integrity, only self-interest, but he'd remember this. He'd pay them back with interest later. The elders' concerns aren't unreasonable. The vice-captain position is fine. I'm still young. There will be other opportunities. Plus, I've been studying with Orochimaru-sensei. I don't have time to manage a team. In that case, just put my name on it. Orochimaru-sensei's work is more important. Uchiha had a deep mind. Though upset, he showed no emotion, still smiling. Having the title meant getting paid without having to work or do tasks. If he couldn't lead, he'd take advantage of the situation. Though Gen Uchiha didn't show it, Uchiha Mikoto sensed his dissatisfaction. The elders' interference was unexpected. It was bad for the young man, but it could benefit Fugaku. If the Uchiha geniuses were dissatisfied with the elders, they'd be closer to the patriarchal line, making Fugaku's position more secure. I'll pass your wishes on to Fugaku. There shouldn't be a problem. Gen Uchiha. Last time her husband had agreed as happily as she did. To apologize, please come to our house for dinner tonight. Shisui will come too. Uchiha Gen smiled. Then I'll accept. He had to go. Otherwise, they'd think he was unhappy with the clan head, which he was. The two elders were to blame, and Uchiha Fugaku shared the responsibility. Then I'll go home and start cooking. Who are you, Itachi? I'm going to train with brother Shisui. Uchiha Itachi replied quickly. Gen, want to train with us? Uchiha. Didn't Shisui notice he'd just returned from a long journey? But, it'd be good to get a sense of Uchiha Itachi's thoughts. Okay, but I need to go home first. We'll wait for you at the clan's third training ground. Got it. Uchiha Mikoto watched them, feeling happy. Her smile grew wider. Itachi was showing extraordinary talent. With guidance from his father, herself, and the two Uchihas, her eldest son had a bright future. After discussing their plans, the four walked together for a while and then parted ways. Chapter 56 Concept Indoctrination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After getting back, Gen Uchiha traded his armor and combat suit for a loose, black robe, more patterned at the bottom. He grabbed the juice from the fridge, plopped on the couch, and drank it down. After a short rest, he strapped on his Kusanagi sword and headed out. Hey, it's Gen. Looking sharp today. Thanks, ma'am, appreciate it. Where you headed, Gen? Just to the training grounds. Always working hard. No wonder you're one of the Uchiha twins. Uncle, you're too kind. Heard you did great out there, General, good job. Just glad I didn't let the Uchiha name down. You're one of the best we've got, that's for sure. These days, Gen Uchiha was a familiar face around the clan. Back when they were just starting out, getting a casual greeting from the regular folks was rare. Now, seeing Gen strolling by, they were eager to say hello. Gen, never one to act superior, always responded humbly and respectfully. It was an attitude that earned him respect with the clan members. Most Uchiha ninjas were decent to the regulars, but there were always some who were arrogant and unapproachable. Making his way to the third training ground, he found Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi practicing kunai and shuriken throws in the woods. Finally made it, Shien, Shisui said, looking up as Gen walked over. We're about to wrap up. Went home for a shower and a quick nap. Then I ran into half the clan on the way out, and they wouldn't stop talking, Gen said. He jumped up onto a tree branch and leaned against the trunk. Not gonna train? Shisui asked, surprised. Does it look like I'm dressed for training? Just came to chill and chat. Chat? Shisui's eyes lit up. Alright, what's on your mind? That he always learned something from talking with General. He was a fan. Shisui stopped practicing, leaped up to the treetops, and sat next to Uchiha Gen. Haven't really thought of anything. What do you want to talk about? Uchiha Gen asked lazily. Shisui thought for a second, remembering Itachi asking him a few days ago about why there was war. He'd said it was because of hatred. He wanted to hear what Gen, who was wiser than them both, thought about it. Let's talk about war. Why does it happen? Gen smiled. He knew Shisui wouldn't just pick a random topic, he'd want to dig deep. Uchiha Itachi, still practicing, perked up his ears. He wanted to hear what the guy Shisui admired had to say, too. Shisui, what's your take? I think it's about hate, but it feels like there's more to it, and I can't put my finger on it, Shisui said, scratching his head. Hatred's a factor, sure, but it's a symptom, not the root cause. Then what is? I think the real issue is competition for resources. Competition for resources? Shisui repeated, thinking hard. Yeah. The Land of Fire is the richest place in the ninja world. Tons of forests, water, good soil, minerals, and a great climate. Climate's a resource. Absolutely. Who doesn't want to live where the air's clean, and the weather's good? True. That unique environment has given the Land of Fire a huge population, booming agriculture, lots of trade, and a strong economy. Even if other countries are better in some ways, they can't compete overall. So, to survive, grow, and be successful, wouldn't other countries want what the Land of Fire has? Think about the first 3 ninja wars. Did Konoha and the Land of Fire start any of them? Since their last conversation, Shisui had been reading family documents and studying history. He'd only scratched the surface, but he knew the main events. Now, thinking back, he realized Konoha had never been the instigator. They were always on the defensive, though the number of villages attacking them varied. The Third Ninja World War had just ended, with the most villages involved, even some small ones. Konoha had taken the biggest hit in that war, too. You're right, Konoha never starts it. Exactly. Shisui's eyes were wide, and he nodded eagerly. Uchiha Itachi had stopped practicing and was listening intently. Hate is just an excuse politicians use to stir things up, rally support, and justify going to war for their own gain. That gain includes the politicians' interests, the village's interests, and the country's interests. Beyond resources, I think wars also come from differences in ideology, territory, political goals, and old grudges. Elaborate? Shisui asked eagerly. Uchiha Itachi crept closer to the base of the tree. Uchiha Gen glanced at Uchiha Itachi, then said, I don't know everything. This is just my theory, so take it with a grain of salt. Ideological conflicts are differences in culture, beliefs, and values. Like those weird cults in the ninja world, their teachings are completely different. No one's going to change their mind with words. So, for the sake of their beliefs and to grow their cult, they have to use force, and that leads to war. Territorial disputes are easier to understand. The 5 big countries don't fight over land much, but lots of smaller countries do. Territorial disputes are really resource disputes in disguise. Political goals are more complicated. Because there are so many, wars to distract from problems at home, or wars to get something specific. Old grudges are past events and conflicts that still affect families, villages, and countries, leading to bad blood. All it takes is a spark to set things off, like a setup. Wars have lots of complicated causes, but at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to fighting over resources and interests. I might be wrong. I'm still figuring it out myself. Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi fell into thought, processing Gen's words. Shisui thought back on everything he'd experienced, and it seemed to fit. Itachi hadn't seen as much, so he couldn't really say for sure. But the idea had been planted in his mind. First impressions matter, and judging through experience later on is bound to be affected. If it's true, it could change everything. Is there a way to stop war, Brother Shien? Uchiha Itachi, remembering the horrors he'd seen on the battlefield, couldn't help but ask. Chapter 57 Small History Classroom, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha lowered his head, a slight smile playing on his lips as he looked at Itachi, whose hopeful face was tilted upwards. I've got an idea, but it's a tough one. Shisui, get Itachi over here. It's gotta be uncomfortable craning his neck like that. Shisui chuckled. No need. Itachi's a whiz, he's already learned tree climbing. Itachi, come on up. Hearing this, Itachi placed one foot on the tree trunk, then the other, and started walking straight up, step by step. While tree walking isn't as hard as water walking, most genin can't pull it off. No wonder Shisui called Itachi a genius. He's not even 5 yet. Reaching the top, Shisui reached out, pulled Itachi behind him, and sat him down. Maybe it was his strict upbringing, but Itachi, barely 4 or 5 years old, knelt formally on the branch. Uchiha Gen shook his head. Looks like the clan head's got you on a tight leash. Relax and sit however you want. It's out of respect for you, brother Gen, and the question you just asked, Itachi said solemnly, his face serious. Damn, this kid's got a silver tongue. Whatever makes you happy. Let's get down to business. Actually, my method isn't new, I'm just taking a page from someone else's book. Whose? Shisui asked, puzzled. Uchiha Madara. Shisui's expression shifted. That name was practically taboo within the Uchiha clan. Even in Konoha, Itachi looked confused. Who's Uchiha Madara? Did Madara Uchiha ever talk about solving wars and creating peace? He did. But I haven't seen it in the clan records. Maybe I just haven't gotten to that part yet. No, there's very little about Uchiha Madara in the clan documents. I had to ask Orochimaru to help me dig it up. Easier to just blame it on Orochimaru and avoid explaining how I know. Besides, there's no way they can verify it anyway. And even if they tried, Orochimaru would probably cover for me. The person in the clan who really knows Uchiha Madara is probably Elder Setsuna, locked up in the slammer. That Elder Setsuna is your mom's dad, your grandfather. Itachi was even more confused. I have a grandfather, why haven't mom and dad ever mentioned him, Why's grandpa in jail? I wouldn't know about that. You can ask the clan head and Aunt Mikoto when you get back. And if they don't know, you can ask your grandpa yourself, if you get the chance. Actually, Gen Uchiha knew the reason, but he wasn't about to spill the beans himself. Hearing it from someone else would have a bigger impact. Would a daughter or son-in-law tell the truth honestly? If Itachi doesn't know the full story, he'll have to ask Setsuna Uchiha himself eventually. And in front of his own grandson, could Uchiha Setsuna honestly tell the truth without trying to clear his name? It's human nature to pass the buck and make excuses to make yourself look good. Few can overcome that instinct. And once he starts clearing his name, he'll inevitably blame the second Hokage, which will affect Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others, making it harder for Itachi to become Hokage down the line. Even though Itachi's showing signs of becoming a stickler for the rules, I'll deal with that. But if there's a genius who's an Uchiha, that's still the best case scenario. After all, when it comes to fighting, the heir Wuzai is still a force to be reckoned with. He's a perfect tool for missions. Before his strength reaches the point where it scares the ninja villages, his interests are tied to the clans. We rise and fall together. The stronger the clan, the more he benefits. I see. Alright, back to Uchiha Madara. During the Warring States period, ninja clans were constantly fighting for survival, expansion, vengeance, profit, you name it. War was everywhere. Back then, the Senju and Uchiha clans were the two most powerful in the ninja world, and we were bitter enemies. As for peace, Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, the heads of the two clans, had different ideas. Senju Hashirama's idea was to create a village-based system where everyone understands and helps each other, eliminating war and ushering in peace. Uchiha Madara's idea was to unify the ninja world under a single banner, with one voice, and use a unified system to suppress war, thus achieving peace. Because of their conflicting philosophies, they fought a long and hard battle, and Uchiha Madara ultimately lost to Senju Hashirama in a duel. Uchiha Madara had planned to die at Senju Hashirama's hand, but Senju Hashirama was willing to sacrifice himself to end the hatred between the two clans. This moved Uchiha Madara, and he decided to give Senju Hashirama's idea a shot. Besides, there's also the stone tablet in the Uchiha shrine. At the time, Uchiha Madara was the first to understand it, namely, Uchiha and Senju cooperating. Originally, Uchiha and Senju could have cooperated long ago, but it was delayed because of Uchiha Izuna's last words, For the sake of the children, they stopped going to war. For the sake of peace, they decided to form an alliance, to advance and retreat as one. Because kids going to war was common during the Warring States period. The Uchiha and Senju clans both had children die at the hands of each other and other ninja clans. Both clan leaders also had younger brothers killed in battle. For example, Uchiha Madara's younger brother, Uchiha Izuna, was killed by the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama. Uchiha Gen didn't play favorites, he spoke entirely from the Uchiha clan's point of view, so he added a little something. The first Hokage Senju Hashirama, the second Hokage Senju Tobirama's younger brothers, Senju Itama and Senju Wama, also died at the hands of Uchiha ninjas. The love, hatred, and resentment between the two clans were a tangled mess, complicated beyond words. It was precisely because they felt the pain caused by the war firsthand that the two clan leaders and the people of the two clans joined forces to create the Leaf Village. For children not to go to war, for peace, that was Konoha's original intention. Uchiha Gen paused, Shisui and Itachi nodded slightly, waiting eagerly. Did you know that the village was named after the Uchiha? The supreme leader of the village, the Hokage, is also from the Uchiha clan. What? Shisui and Itachi were shocked and exclaimed at the same time. I had the same reaction when I first saw this record. Gen, how are Konoha's name and the Hokage title tied to the Uchiha? Shisui couldn't wait to ask, and Itachi was eager for answers. Why wouldn't they be tied to the Uchiha? We Uchiha were among the founders of the village. Our contribution to the founding of the village is second only to the Senju. No other ninja clan can compare. Senju Hashirama was a master of wood release, while other Senju clan members were skilled in water and earth release. And our Uchiha clan is famous throughout the ninja world for our fire release and Sharingan. Isn't it natural to be named after Hokage? But in the end, the record shows that Senju Hashirama wanted Uchiha Madara to be the Hokage. Uchiha Shisui was taken aback. What? Uchiha Madara was supposed to be Hokage. Then why didn't Uchiha Madara take the job? According to the records, except for Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara was generally a very domineering, cold, and unemotional guy. While Senju Hashirama's personality wasn't entirely opposite, his easygoing nature and gentleness were deeply ingrained. He was also tolerant and sincere, and he was quite popular. Except when someone tried to destroy Konoha. Then, Senju Hashirama's methods could be pretty ruthless. At the time, Senju Hashirama was the strongest in the ninja world and was called the god of shinobi. Uchiha Madara was second, known as the Asura of shinobi. There's no smoke without fire. From their nicknames, you can probably guess how they behaved. Senju Hashirama single-handedly led the formation of Konoha, and his prestige among the major ninja clans was unmatched. You also know how the Hokage election system works. How could Madara Uchiha become Hokage under those circumstances? The Fire Country Daimyo and the public opinion of the village must both approve the Hokage. The former is the one who pays the bills. The Fire Country Daimyo would naturally be terrified of someone like Uchiha Madara. The latter recognized Senju Hashirama far more than Uchiha Madara. And the latter is more important than the former. If public opinion in the village approves, the daimyo can't object, he'd have to bite the bullet and accept it. Uchiha Shisui nodded, understanding. Itachi Uchiha didn't quite get it, so he asked Shisui about the Hokage election system. Shisui explained it to Itachi, and he soon understood. That's an unwinnable situation. Unless Senju Hashirama refused to take the job and threw his support behind Uchiha Madara wouldn't have become Hokage. Do you think that was likely? Chapter 58 History Classroom, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shisui Uchiha shook his head, and Itachi Uchiha mirrored the motion. Gen Uchiha smiled faintly, turning to Itachi. Why not? Itachi's expression faltered. He hesitated, searching for an explanation. Finally, he admitted, I can't quite put my finger on it. I just have a gut feeling it couldn't happen. And you, Shisui? Well, Gen, you mentioned that Hashirama Senju spearheaded the creation of Konoha, earning him widespread respect. If he refused the Hokage position, wouldn't he be letting everyone down? Itachi's eyes widened. That was it. Shisui's right. Shisui grinned, pleased to be validated. Hashirama Senju was the obvious choice for the first Hokage. He was the only one who could truly unite the village, no one else stood a chance. Without him, Madara Uchiha might have been able to seize power through force, but not with Hashirama around. Anyone else taking the position would have sparked immediate dissent. That instability would have led to civil war, and Konoha could have fallen apart. That's something Hashirama couldn't allow, so he had to step up. Even though I'm an Uchiha, I acknowledge the logical and objective reasons for Hashirama's ascension. Shisui and Itachi both nodded in agreement. After Hashirama took over, he promised Madara the second Hokage position, but by then, Madara had already decided to leave Konoha. Why? Because Madara had lost faith in Hashirama. Why? Because he wasn't given the Hokage title as promised. That's part of it. After analyzing it closely, here's what I think was going through Madara's head. The Hokage position should go to the strongest. Who would you consider the strongest during the Warring States period? Someone powerful. Itachi replied. Exactly. Itachi beamed at the praise. In that chaotic and brutal era, might made right. That kind of thinking was normal. So, if the undeniably strongest person, Hashirama Senju, was willing to hand over the Hokage seat, it was naturally Madara's for the taking. From Madara's perspective, it was perfectly logical and deserved for him to become Hokage. That's when Hashirama's younger brother, Tobirama Senju, interfered. Truthfully, even without Tobirama's meddling, it would have been an uphill battle for Madara to become Hokage. Public sentiment just wasn't on his side. There's no record of the exact nature of that interference, but I imagine only those who were there know the full story. Regardless, Tobirama's actions created an unbridgeable chasm between Madara and Hashirama. The other reason Madara couldn't stay was that he had burned too many bridges, he'd betrayed everyone. Shisui frowned. Betrayed his own family? Why? Because there was a rumor going around the village. That Madara Uchiha killed his own brother to steal his eyes and gain more power. A lot of people believed it, even many Uchiha clan members. Why would they believe that? Because Madara's power was terrifying, and he had indeed replaced his brother's eyes. Wait. Madara actually killed his brother for his eyes? Shisui gasped, his face paling. Itachi looked equally horrified. The records say no. He replaced his own failing eyes with his deceased brother's. His brother agreed to it before he died. Phew. Shisui and Itachi sighed in relief. They didn't want to think their ancestor was some psycho who'd murder his own sibling for power. Didn't he try to explain? What good would that do? Some things just stick, like mud in your underwear. People will think it's either shit or shit. The rumors had already taken hold. The more he denied it, the more it looked like a cover-up. Plus, he wasn't exactly popular, to begin with. Besides, Madara was incredibly arrogant. He wouldn't bother explaining himself. If Konoha didn't want him, he'd just leave. Who was spreading the rumors? Gen Uchiha smiled knowingly. Shui, what do you think? I have a hunch, but it's hard to believe. My take is, whoever benefited the most was pulling the strings. You think it was the first or second Hokage? The first Hokage didn't need to. Madara Uchiha wasn't a threat to his position. Shui stated his thoughts honestly. Shui, you're getting sharper. Exactly. Hashirama Senju had no need to do that, and if the historical accounts are accurate, he wouldn't have stooped to that. Shui nodded. What happened next? After they went their separate ways, Madara captured the Nine Tails and came back to fight Hashirama. Ultimately, Madara died in the battle, and Hashirama died soon after due to chakra exhaustion. What? Captured the Nine Tails? Madara Uchiha was that strong? Shui was stunned. He'd witnessed the terrifying power of the Nine Tails Jinchuriki on the battlefield in the Mist Village. Even Jinchuriki who couldn't fully control the Nine Tails were terrifying. How much worse was the full Nine Tails? The records say that the Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan and the Senju clans would release were natural counters to the tailed beasts, regardless of the beast. According to those accounts, Hashirama and Madara could subdue even the Nine Tails without breaking a sweat. Seriously? That powerful? It's insane. Shui was floored, his jaw practically hitting the floor. Itachi was equally astonished, while he couldn't fully grasp the power levels of the Nine Tails, Madara, and Hashirama. He also felt a surge of pride. Look at how powerful our Uchiha ancestors were. No wonder my father always talks about the clan's honor. I can barely imagine it, Gen Uchiha admitted, only half joking. After all, what he saw in the original book is quite inaccurate. If I have not personally experienced that kind of power, nor have I ever had that kind of power. But it doesn't matter, sooner or later he will have it, and even have power beyond them. After a moment of digesting the information, Shui asked, why did Madara come back to fight Hashirama? The history books say he wanted to destroy Konoha. Seeing their expressions darken, Gen Uchiha added, but that's not the real story. If he really wanted to destroy Konoha, Madara could have just controlled the Nine Tails and attacked the village directly, turning it into a battlefield. Instead, he chose to fight Hashirama outside the village. With Madara's skill and abilities, it wouldn't have been hard to sneak into Konoha and summon the Nine Tails with a summoning jutsu. My guess is, he wanted to defeat Hashirama, his old rival. The real reason, of course, was to get Hashirama's cells to gain the power of all things, but no need to mention that. Shui and Itachi nodded, willing to believe that explanation. They had embraced the village, and they didn't want to see it destroyed. Shui, Itachi, remember this. What? They asked in unison. Our Uchiha clan is second only to the Senju clan in Konoha, and all other clans are beneath us. I'm talking about actual Senju clan members, like Tsunade, one of the legendary Sannin. Random blood relatives don't count. When Madara left Konoha, the Uchiha, lured by the promise of a peaceful life, didn't follow. That's when the division occurred. But Madara was a former clan leader, after all, so it's tough to completely sever the ties between the two. Even though Madara died in the battle, he started the fight. Hashirama isn't to blame. Therefore, we Uchiha bear some responsibility for the first Hokage's death, and we owe the Senju clan an apology. Plus, the Senju clan took the lead in forming Konoha, so their influence is greater than ours. It's okay to take a back seat to them. Agreed. Shui and Itachi nodded. They weren't as influential as the Senju. Of course, we Uchiha shouldn't underestimate ourselves. We were instrumental in the creation of Konoha. Without both the Uchiha and the Senju clans, Konoha would never have been built. Do you know why? Since today is free, let's instill your own ideas vigorously, and drink enough at one time. It will make the two of you dizzy, and it will be easier for them to agree with your ideas and the impression will be more profound. Shui and Itachi nodded eagerly, their faces full of curiosity. Please pursue reading, please pursue reading, please pursue reading, there will be a surprise in the next update. Chapter 59 Unexpected Gain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I mentioned before that during the Warring States period, the Senju and Uchiha clans were the two powerhouses among ninjas. Once Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha became leaders, their clans were on a whole different level. It wasn't just the leader's power, but the strength of every ninja in each clan that set them apart. Because of this strength, if one employer chose Senju, another with opposing interests would inevitably go for Uchiha, and vice versa. That's why the animosity between these two clans ran so deep. Now, if these two biggest rivals could bury the hatchet and work together, wouldn't that be the ultimate example for everyone else? Shisui and Itachi nodded quickly. That way, ninjas who didn't share that deep-seated hatred could let go of their doubts and fears about the Senju. What were they worried about? What were they afraid of? Being swallowed up, completely absorbed, losing their own identity. You have to understand, Konoha started out as a collection of ninja clans, big and small, like one big family. Senju was the patriarch of this family, holding the highest position and the most power, which is what a leader deserves, but that didn't give the Senju license to bully, exploit, enslave, or absorb everyone else. Different roles, different jobs, but everyone's equal. Why did these clans join Konoha in the first place? Even the Uchiha, we all wanted a more stable life, better opportunities, and peace. If there wasn't a better future in it, what would be the point? Right? Shisui and Itachi nodded, totally engrossed. If the Uchiha didn't agree to cooperate with the Senju, would anyone else follow the Senju? Shisui, what do you think? It's important for them to feel involved, so the message sticks and they buy in. No, because the power gap is too big, and that would make them feel unsafe. Even if the Senju didn't suppress them, they'd end up with a hereditary system instead of a Konoha with open elections, and it wouldn't be as strong as the Konoha founded by two major clans. If you can't beat the other ninja villages, you can always run, hide, or join another group. Plus, this Konoha would be fragile, since the hatred would still be there. If the Senju clan lost their grip, it would all fall apart from the inside. Gen Uchiha glanced at Shisui, impressed. You're making progress, Shisui, well said. Hearing Shisui praised, Itachi looked at him with envy. Itachi was starting to really admire Gen, this well-read guy with such deep thoughts. Madara Uchiha didn't beg for mercy after losing. He didn't surrender. He faced death with dignity. It was Hashirama Senju's sincerity that finally moved him. What if Hashirama hadn't chosen to work together, but had instead tried to absorb or destroy the Uchiha? The Uchiha would be resentful. The moment the Senju were in trouble, they'd stab them in the back, and when the other clans saw the Senju calling all the shots, wouldn't they be terrified? Before, when the two clans were evenly matched, everyone else could survive in the cracks, but if the Senju dominated, the other clans would be squeezed out. Either become vassals, or be destroyed. For the nobles, the Senju running the show wouldn't be good either. Their bargaining power would disappear. After all, no other ninja clan could stand up to the Senju. As the Senju got stronger, wouldn't the nobles worry about a revolt, a threat to their power? Deep-seated prejudices might prevent Hashirama from attacking the nobles, but would they believe that? The nobles aren't merciful. They'd rather kill 1,000 innocents than let one guilty person go free. I think they definitely would. In that case, the nobles and the other ninja clans would band together to take down the Senju, as long as it served their interests. If the Senju went along with it, the nobles and ninja clans would keep the pressure on until they did. They might even plot to wipe out the Senju when the opportunity arose. That would give the other ninja clans room to survive, develop, and grow. The nobles would regain their leverage and eliminate the threat of being overthrown. If the Senju didn't go along with it, it would be all-out war until one side was completely defeated. If the Senju lost, they'd be wiped out, no question. Even if they won, thanks to Hashirama, how many would survive? And when Hashirama died, all those who resented the Senju's dictatorship would rise up. I don't think the Senju could withstand the remaining nobles and ninja clans without Hashirama. No matter how you look at it, the Senju are doomed. Seeing the two were completely captivated, Gen Uchiha swallowed and kept talking, regretting not bringing water. If he hadn't chugged a bottle of juice before coming, he might be all dried up by now. If the Uchiha were destroyed, the consequences would be even worse. First of all, Hashirama isn't strong enough to completely crush Madara. Otherwise, the two clans wouldn't have been fighting for so long after they took over. It's true Hashirama won some key battles, but the original story makes it clear they were evenly matched. If Hashirama's power level is 10,000, Madara's is 900, it's not like my power's only 6,000 and his is at least 10,000. If the two clans fought to the death, the Senju would probably win, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Would the other ninja clans give the Senju a chance to rise again? Itachi, what do you think? Old habits, gotta keep them involved, no. Itachi said firmly, you're right, absolutely not. Even if the Senju won a complete victory, they'd still go down the same path I mentioned before, and the conflict would be even worse, because seeing what happened to the Uchiha, everyone else would fight even harder to survive. I'm telling you all this to show you how important the Uchiha clan is to the creation of Konoha. Besides, during the building of Konoha, even though we didn't contribute as much as the Senju, we still put in our fair share of manpower and resources, so, the Senju are the top dogs in Konoha, and we're number 2, you agree? Shisui and Itachi thought about it, then looked at each other and said together, agree. Now that the Senju clan is fading, I hope that one day the Uchiha can take the top spot and achieve even greater glory than before. Make the Uchiha great again, even greater. What do you think of that dream? Shisui smiled widely and said, that's a great dream, I'm all in. Itachi said firmly, Brother Gen, I think I've found my purpose in life. Huh? An unexpected bonus? Just kidding. If there's anything wrong, lighten up and enjoy the story. If you don't like it, don't criticize. Chapter 60. This is very filial. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's the meaning of your life? Uchiha Gen prompted him, his eyes full of hope and admiration. To make the Uchiha clan great again. Even greater, Uchiha Itachi replied, happy and resolute. Excellent. But when you tell people about your dreams, you might add one more thing at the end. What do you suggest, Brother Gen? Make Konoha great again. Make Konoha even greater. Because we Uchiha are one of Konoha's leading families. If the Uchiha become great again, greater, wouldn't Konoha automatically become great again, greater? Itachi considered this and found no flaw in the logic. You're right, Brother General, I'll add that sentence at the end. Uchiha Fugaku, how could you teach a child like that? What kind of father sends a kid that age to the battlefield? What a fool. Normal education is just playing the strict father role, making demands without explaining or guiding. He's completely missed the mark, he's utterly unqualified. If I were Itachi and Sasuke's father, I wouldn't let them get twisted like that. This is the true meaning of life, the cycle of birth and death, the struggle, the supposed meaninglessness. What kind of life philosophy is that? What deep thoughts about life can a child even have? For adults, it's just nonsense, pure BS. Very good. Shisui, Itachi, want to hear my thoughts on the meaning of life? Yes. Shisui answered, his eyes shining. I do. Itachi said eagerly, his expression changing with anticipation. Pick a goal, a dream, and pour your heart and soul into achieving it. When you're old and look back, you won't regret wasting your time or feel ashamed for doing nothing. That's how a person should live. What do you think? Such insightful words. It makes so much sense. Gen's wisdom is truly beyond my grasp, amazing. Shisui pondered Gen's words, impressed. After a moment of thought, Itachi looked at Gen with utter admiration. He would adopt this as his personal motto. Furthermore, Gen continued. Time is money, but money can't buy time. It's easy to learn from elders when young, but hard to make a name. So, don't take time lightly. Before I realize the dream of spring grass in the pond, the phoenix leaves in front of the steps have already sounded the sound of autumn. Don't worry so much about fancy clothes, instead cherish your youth. Seize the day while the flowers are in bloom. Don't wait until they're gone and the branches are bare. As Gen spoke, even Shisui was filled with admiration, so cultured, so profound. Little stars practically sparkled in Itachi's eyes. He secretly vowed to write down every word when he got home, to keep them as a constant reminder and inspiration. Jen watched the two of them, feeling a surge of pride. What if he recited all the poems and proverbs about time and life that he remembered from his student days? But as they say, less is more. Overdoing it wouldn't necessarily be good. Better to take it slow and steadily reinforce the message. These words are to remind us to cherish time and life, but that doesn't mean we have to work ourselves to the bone. Don't rush into anything. Balance work with rest, and find efficient methods to get things done. Understand, that this way, he'd have an excuse to enjoy himself. He wasn't about to get tricked into being a workaholic. He didn't want to be chained to his desk. Of course, if these two wanted to become workaholics, he wouldn't stop them. It's not him who'd be exhausted, anyway. Understood, they chorused. Good. Asterisk snap, star. Suddenly, Jen clapped his hands, a hint of annoyance on his face. I got carried away. I forgot to answer Itachi's original question. Let's get back on track. The one village system has been in place for decades, and you've seen the results. The first ninja war broke out soon after the death of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. The second Hokage, Tobarama Senju, led our forces to victory. The second ninja war broke out soon after the death of the second Hokage, and we just finished the third ninja war. Each war gets bigger, with more and more casualties. Especially this Ninja World War, you've both seen it. It's a repeat of kids going to the battlefield during the Warring States period. Itachi is still young, but the fact is that even kids are sent to war. Kakashi was only 5 when he went to the battlefield. This is clearly against Konoha's founding ideals, to stop child soldiers, to create a stable life, and to achieve peace. Doesn't this situation prove that the first Hokage's ideas were too naive, too idealistic, and ultimately, wrong? Wrong! Itachi declared firmly. Alas, the first Hokage did take the wrong path, Shisui sighed. So, I believe the only way to achieve lasting peace in the ninja world is to unify it. As a guy from Earth in his previous life, the concept of unification was ingrained in Gen's bones. He naturally admired Madara's philosophy. Can unifying the ninja world really bring about eternal peace? Shisui asked hopefully. I'd like to say yes, but I can't be sure. After all, it's a road no one has ever traveled. Madara Uchiha had a similar idea, but he never had the chance to make it happen. But if we unify the ninja world and do it right, I believe we could achieve at least a century of peace, maybe even several centuries. That's enough time for us and future generations to find ways to maintain peace permanently. Wouldn't that be great? Gen's eyes were sharp, his voice resolute. In truth, he already had a rough idea for achieving permanent peace, but it wasn't something he could share yet. His idea was too crazy, and he'd probably be labeled as insane. No need to say it out loud. The thoughts he shared now should be enough to inspire Shisui and Itachi to fight for this dream for the rest of their lives. Great, amazing, incredible. Besides making the Uchiha and Konoha great, this will be the biggest goal of my life. Shisui nodded solemnly, his face equally determined. This is also the biggest goal of my life, Itachi Uchiha. Itachi's young face was set with determination, his eyes shining with the light of someone who had discovered life's true purpose. Then, from now on, we're comrades. Comrades? Shisui looked confused. We're of one mind. Same desires, same joys, same difficulties, same fortunes. I get it. You sure have a way with words. We're truly aligned. Shisui suddenly understood. Wow, those two simple words held such profound meaning. That's Brother Gen for you. Itachi was amazed, his face a picture of wonder. So, what's the first step we should take to achieve our ultimate goal? After a moment, Shisui asked. Itachi, too, looked at Gen expectantly. Make the Uchiha great again, make Konoha great again, make the ninja world great again. It's a step-by-step process. The first step is to set a small goal. An Uchiha clan member will become Hokage, is that a small goal? Shisui and Itachi gasped, shocked. Even the mighty Madara Uchiha had never become Hokage, and the fourth Hokage was about to be named, and he wasn't an Uchiha. However, the fifth Hokage held promise. Whichever becomes Hokage, Teacher Minato, or Lord Orochimaru, will have a disciple of the Uchiha family under his sect. Hiss. Gen had already started to implement it and he planned it so early, incredible. Looking at Shisui's expression, Gen knew what he was thinking. Although he hadn't thought that far ahead, that wouldn't stop him from basking in the glory. So, Gen nodded knowingly, *hiss, Shisui was even more stunned by this confirmation, which furthered the greenhouse effect in the shinobi world. Itachi saw his older brother Shisui suddenly freeze, his face a mask of confusion. What was going on? Driven by his curiosity, Itachi voiced his confusion. Shisui then explained the whole story of his and his apprentices, Minato and Orochimaru. After hearing this, Itachi was completely blown away. When he looked at Gen, his eyes lit up and shined with stars. As for his father's contribution, Itachi had forgotten it. It's just a nod of agreement. Any sane person could do that. To disagree would be treason and unforgivable. Whoever hinders the Uchiha, Konoha, and the ninja world from becoming great again should die. If Gen knew what Itachi was thinking, he would be amazed. Okay, this is very filial. Please continue to read.